Hello, my darlings, and welcome back to my channel. Hi, if you're new here, my name's Nash. I like to read and talk about all things books. In today's video, I am finally catching you guys up on all the reading I've done. It wasn't a lot over the summer. I was in a little bit of a reading slump, but I still did read some great books, and there are some that I would highly recommend. So I'm going to go through all of them. You get several months. We got June, July, August, September, and of course October. Might as well throw that in here now that it's over. But before we get into today's video, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell notification so you can be notified every time I post. Let's get started. The month of June was my last solid month before my reading slump. I did read 7 books, and there were some really good ones. I believe this was a really great reading month. Up first, we have A Bargain So Bloody by Vasilisa Drake. This is the book 1 of the Kingdom of Dark Magic series. This book gives you vampires, witches, magic, and of course some danger. Our FMC Samara is trapped in a magical prison being tormented by the guards for a crime she didn't commit. After she finds out that her release is not guaranteed after her 15th year, she decides to make a deal with the biggest, baddest prisoner, a bloodthirsty vampire named Raphael. I was absolutely gagged with this dark fantasy romance. This story was really gritty at times, but it truly felt like a healing journey in a weird way because Samara was really traumatized and really just trying to find her way forward. I immersive read with the audiobook and I did love the narrator. I rated this a 4.5 star. I did take that little half a star off because Samara was getting on my nerves at times. But overall, I really enjoyed this story and I cannot wait until the next book comes out because this was a good dark fantasy romance, like real good. Then I listened to Blooms of Darkness by Anna Applegate and Helen D'Amico, which is book 1 of the Broken Prophecy series. This book right here basically gives us romantasy bachelorette because 8 Fae males are fighting for our FMC Ileana's hand in marriage, except she has a huge secret that could literally change everything. They have the 8 Fae males fight in deadly trials to try and prove themselves to the crown so they can get Ileana's hand, including our resident shadow daddy, Cade. A prophecy will literally do it for me every single time. Anytime I've read a prophecy, I've absolutely devoured it, and this one was no different. I loved this book from the very beginning, and I truly enjoyed the vigilante FMC vibes. And of course, I will absolutely add another shadow daddy to my roster. To me, the author did a great job of writing the characters because I really liked the side characters and absolutely despised the villain. I will say on this one, the audiobook and the narrators really sold the story for me. My only con was that it was a little lusty at the beginning. I will still say overall it was a good book. I gave this one 4.5 stars as well. Metal Slinger by Rachel Schneider. This is book 1 of the Fire and Metal series, and I'm pretty sure you've probably heard of this book at some point. And yes, the ending is as gobsmacking as everybody says. In this book, we're riding with our girl Bryn, who was raised among the Alaha people who were exiled to live above the sea. When she's given the opportunity to go to an annual market held by the Kenta people, which are basically the land people, the one that had them exiled, by the way, and she unintentionally breaks a century-long peace treaty. The ending definitely had me flabbergasted. It was so unexpected. That plot twist was crazy. I truly had no idea it was coming. I really like this world with the 2 kinds of people that have a really tumultuous relationship. I also really enjoyed that Bryn was strong and capable with a rowdy side to her. I will say the MMC in this book definitely gives cinnamon roll that could kill you vibes, which we love. I am truly so excited for book 2, which is called Light Wielder. It comes out May 19th, 2026. I need to know what's going to happen. This was a 5 star. Then I decided to tap into The Twisted Sisters with Neverkeep by Caroline Peckham and Susan Valenti. This is book 1 of their new series, Sins of the Zodiac. There is truly something about following 2 different women, whether they're twins like Zodiac Academy or just 2 female main characters in this story. This story does take place in the world of Solaria, but you don't have to read like Zodiac Academy or Ruthless Boys. You can start this on its own. In this world, the dragons are lost and the elements are at war. You don't have a choice. You have to fight. Once they turn 21, they're shipped off to a war college called Neverkeep, and that's where they're going to go to try and awaken their magic. The Reapers are merciless, the Royals are lying, the werewolves are running the damn muck, and the vampires are in these bloodthirsty covens. I truly love how the Twisted Sisters really incorporate astrology into their stories and their fantasy books. It just is so cool and unique. I have yet to read somebody who uses astrology in the same way, which I love. I do think following two separate characters adds a level of complexity to the story, which I find to be truly refreshing. I liked all the characters, even the ones I was supposed to hate. When you get a visceral reaction from villainous characters, I feel like to me, that's a sign that they are written well because I need to want to fight you. I need to want to pull you out them pages. This book gave us lots of lore and history, which I absolutely eat up. As a detail oriented person, I love to know all the little nitty gritty details. I want to know it all as long as it flows well with the story, which I think it did here. The audiobook was absolutely amazing as usual, and I can't wait to get back into this world with Echo Fort. I did give this one a 4.5 stars as well. If you're knowing a little track record here, you're seeing there are books that are just not hitting that 5-star mark for me just yet, except one. Let's keep going. Then I gave a listen to Born of Blood and Magic by MC Hudson. This is book 1 of the Lightless series. This right here is a hidden gem. It's a great book. Is it perfect? No, but I think it's a great book and no one has ever talked about it. I've literally never seen nobody talk about this book. If you need a fun, sapphic, urban fantasy romance, then I would highly recommend picking up this one. We follow two characters in this story as well, Violet or Vi. She is vampire cursed, so basically the blood that's supposed to sustain her is a poison to her. She can't have it. And our other main character is Petra. She's an assassin for a shadow organization called the Order of Light, and they basically hunt down supernatural creatures for profit. Horrible, by the way. Petra doesn't care about any of that. She just wants to find the person or the vampire who took out the last of her family. Petra is tasked with taking out Vi and ends up obviously failing, and comes to find out they need to work together. This was such a fun time. I really enjoyed myself. I loved all the magical creatures, the hoppers, the sorcerers, and of course the vampires. The third person POV, I think, gave us the full scope of all the characters at play. In this story, the romance is so beautifully cruel. That's literally the best way to describe it. It was beautifully cruel, and I genuinely liked how it ended. We also get an interracial couple, which as a resident swirler myself, I really do appreciate. I also thought the plot was interesting and unique. This was a good time. I gave this a 4-star. After that, I gave a listen to Brighter Than Scale, Swifter Than Flame by Neon Yang. This is a queer Asian-inspired fantasy that gives serious Mandalorian vibes. The main character is a famous dragon slayer who never takes off her armor in public. She is then sent to a fiercely independent nation called Quan Bao, which is extremely isolated and kind of a mystery to everybody else. I really loved the dragon lore and the Asian culture that was infused in the story, but the story was really short and it felt very straightforward. So it's not that I didn't enjoy the book, it just didn't feel like there was much to review, I guess. So I gave this one a 2 stars. Now on to the book that absolutely shook up my June, The Forgotten and the Feared by E.C. Garrett. This is book 1 of the Dragon Queen series. Two young women, Amalia and Diana, live in a world ruled by Fae. The Fae have enslaved the dragons who are revered as gods, and even worse, they literally eat their babies for power. To add to that list of horrors, humans are chosen randomly to fight in what's called the Gauntlet, which is a deadly tournament where the only way to survive is to win by slaying a dragon. First of all, you don't play with the dragons. You don't mess with the dragons, especially the babies. That part right there absolutely ripped out my heart. I was so upset. I was viscerally angry because you don't play with the dragons, especially the dragon babies. This book hit me in my feels so much. I really loved how the author tackled grief and loss. I am basic, I know. I do love a deadly trowel. Yes, I will always eat it up. And this one right here, it was dark, it was gruesome. These characters are truly amazing, and the bond between Amalia and Diana is genuinely so awesome. The queer representation is an absolute plus for me. We get a gay side character and a gay dragon. This book was so bingeable with a crazy, dark, and honestly kind of disturbing plot. I was flabbergasted so many times, and I cannot wait for the book 2 audio to drop because I need to be back in this world. This was a 5-star. For the month of July, I read 3 books. I started out with the Quicksilver bonus scenes, the audio of Kingfisher's POV, which I will say, holy goddamn Fisher, okay? That man, Anthony Palmini, is an amazing narrator and he does Fisher so much justice. I absolutely love Kingfisher and have gushed about him several times, as you can see here. I was genuinely so interested in the bonus scenes, but I knew I wanted an audio, so I'm so glad that they came out with this one. I love that we got some of the details of some really important Fisher events, and I cannot wait for Brimstone. I'm genuinely so excited. This little short bonus chapters was also a 5-star. A Forbidden Alchemy by Stacey McEwen. This is book one of the Artisan trilogy. Nina and Patrick met at 12 years old when they were both taken to Bellavere City to discover their magical potential. And they have them take this test, and if they pass, they become an artisan and wield elemental magic and go to a special school. If they fail, they become a craftsman and go to the idiom mines. While waiting in line, they get into some mischief and discover a world-changing secret, and they both handle it in two different ways. This is a slow burn romantasy that is oozing Peaky Blinders vibes. If you don't know what Peaky Blinders is, it's a television show. The world building and magic system definitely felt unique, but it did kind of remind me of House of Bane and Blood by Alexis L. Menard. I love this audiobook as well. I think the narrator did an amazing job. Nina definitely did piss me off at times, but I absolutely loved Patrick. I do also think that this is a perfect romantasy for somebody who is maybe a beginner or is just deciding to tap into the genre. This was so much fun, 4.5 stars. This Vicious Dream by Stasia Stark. This is book one of the Kingdom of Death series. It does take place in the same world as the Kingdom of Lies series, except we follow a different character, Medenia. You can read this without reading the Kingdom of Lies series, but I would highly recommend it just so you can get some background on our main character. After helping save a kingdom, Medenia is trapped in a prison of thorns and nightmares, all because she knows where a grimoire is that can basically reshape the world. That's the only thing keeping her alive at this point because they are definitely trying to break her. That's when he shows up, our dark and mysterious man, Calician, who doesn't want to help her. He wants the grimoire for himself. Stasia Stark's writing always sucks me in. I literally love every single one of her books. This felt like the start of a real adventure. I love the journey Medenia is going on. The pacing and world building were really well done, and I loved Calician as a male main character because he is just so smooth. He is a really smooth talker. I do, however, wish the audiobook had different narrators because all I can think about is Lorien and Prisca. I gave this book a 4 stars. I only read one book in the month of August, and that was The Bond That Burns by Briar Bolin. This is book 2 in the Bloodwing Academy series. I'm not going to get too much into this one because it is a sequel, and of course, I don't want to spoil anything. However, I will say my feelings about it and my ratings. At the time of reading this, I was in the throes of my reading slump, but this one definitely kept me going. I'm really enjoying how the series is progressing, but Blake pissed me off most of the book. But towards the end, I did start coming back around. I can't wait to see what's going to happen in book 3. I give this one a 4 star. For the month of September, I read 2 books. The Courting of Bristol Keats by Mary E. Pearson. This is book 1 of the Courting of Bristol Keats series. Bristol is struggling to stay afloat with her sisters after the loss of their parents. When she starts receiving these strange letters from a so-called aunt, times get heavy and dire, and she finally decides to meet up with this aunt. And at this meeting, she discovers everything she thought about her family is a lie. I really enjoyed the story because Bristol would do literally anything to make sure her and her sister survive. She was absolutely determined to do that, which I genuinely had a lot of respect for. Unlike some stories that the sisters be letting the one sister do all the work and they just be sitting on their ass. But we're not going to talk about that. We got a slower burn romance, and I did enjoy the mystery aspect of it. This is going to be a duology, and I will be reading The Last Wish of Bristol Keats. This one was also a 4 star. To wrap up September, I read Viciously Yours by Jamie Applegate Hunter, which is book 1 of the Fae Kings of Eden series. This is a series of interconnected standalones where we follow different couples. They are romance books with fantasy elements set in a fantasy world. She loves to be clear on that. When our male main character Rennick was 13 years old, the gods told him the name of his fated mate, who happened to be a human girl named Amelia. Since he is the sole heir to the Mountain Kingdom, he's magically bound to his kingdom, so he can't leave. He decides to start writing her letters, which of course Amelia finds weird. He's magically bound until he turns 25 and ascends. So she gets those letters for quite a while. This was a fun, cute romance book. I absolutely loved the romance story. It was beautiful, and Rennick, he really did not play when it came to my girl. Like, he really had serious touch or die vibes. He was also surprisingly hilarious. This book was a 4 star. On to the month of October, I am officially back. I read 8 books in October. Continuing with the Fae Kings of Eden series, I read book 2, which is Obsessively Yours. Roman and Violet met when they were 12 years old and really hit it off. And just like Rennick in book 1, when Roman turns 13, the gods tell him the name of his fated mate. And get this, it is literally Violet's twin sister Vivian, which causes a whole uproar. This was an interesting take on the fated mates trope because it had me on the edge of my seat. I loved Roman as an MMC as well because, again, he did not play no games when it came to Violet. literally none, but he also did the sweetest things to make her feel safe and loved. And that hit me in the feels, and I love that down. Also, his familiar ward added a great level of comedy and banter, which I thought was so funny and refreshing. This was a great standalone, 4.5 stars. Then we have Witch of the Wolves by Kaylee Archer. It's just like it said, we got witches, werewolves. Our FMC Cordelia is a witch from an infamous family. When she finds out, not only is she half werewolf, but she's the daughter of the Alpha, she's then kidnapped and taken to their pack, where her dad basically is like, yeah, you're going to get married to your abductor. Arranged marriage? I think yes. Cordelia is such a witty FMC, and I did like the MMC Bishop as well. I'm interested to see where this series goes because that ending had me on my toes. This was another 4-star. Now, Primal of Blood and Bone by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is one of my most anticipated reads of this entire year. I have literally so many thoughts on this book. It's not even funny. I did do a whole separate video on my thoughts just on this book because I was genuinely so conflicted. What I will say, I love this series and these characters, but that can only take it so far. I feel like this series really needs to be wrapped up. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy the story because I did, but it feels like it's just dragging on at this point, and I need the next book to be the last one. I will also say I do not think the audiobook is doing the series justice, at least the standard audiobook anyway, because that is not my Castile Denier. Okay, Poppy's narrator, I don't have any issue with. When it comes to Castile, that's a whole nother ball game. That might have been what contributed to me looking sideways at this book. This was a 3.75 star. Next, we have A Stark View by Alexis Patton. In this book, Kalani was handed a life sentence for a crime she didn't commit and is thrown in an underground prison where she meets our male main character, Takeshi Motherfucking Steele, who is the top guard. And they have to, get together in order to get out of this prison. This is a slower burn romance, and if you love a good training scene, definitely pick up this book. It's not that long. The audiobook is also absolutely fantastic. The narrator who does Takeshi Steele absolutely kills it. This one got 4.5 stars. Another audio only, Once Upon a Demon's Heart by Kaya Moranova. In this book, we get gods, demigods, and of course, good old demons. Alira is our FMC, and not only is she a demigod, but she is a decorated knight. She has been stuck in a time loop where she has been unalived 20 times by the Demon Kingdom's Blood Knight. After that 20th time, she says, this is too much, okay? I need to do something else, and decides to enter into an arranged marriage. And Kalel is that perfect, broody, dark MMC that we all know and love. And that man right there, the way he would get literally so violent for her, had me absolutely melting. I do think more could have happened in terms of the plot because it didn't feel like much happened. It felt like it was a lot of traveling, but I still really did enjoy myself. This was a 3.75 star. Up next, we have Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber. This is her debut adult fantasy, whereas this is my introduction to Stephanie Garber. I was not someone who read Once Upon a Broken Heart or Caraval, so this was my introduction to her work, and honestly, I'm pleasantly surprised. The main character, Holland St. James, is obsessed with myths and urban legends. When she actually finds one of those legends called the Watchman, who can basically tell people when they're gonna die and how they can change it, our girl decides to find out and gets stuck in a serious time crunch where she has to go on a hunt for something. This book had very whimsical writing and a really good mystery. It also had serious old Hollywood vibes, which I really enjoyed. This was 4.25 stars. Speaking of refreshing, Lost and Stolen Gods by Debbie Cassidy. This is book 1 of the Labyrinth of God series. This book is Hindu-inspired mythology, and I personally don't know anything about Hindu mythology, so I found this to be so unique and so interesting. Leela witnesses her grandmother's brutal unaliving at the jaws of a monster, and right before the monster comes for her, she is saved, but she's also kidnapped and taken to another world, where they basically tell her that she's a demigod and she has to go through these really dangerous tests leading up to one brutal trial called the Labyrinth of God. Our main male character, Eraz, absolutely exuded tension and was bowstring tight, which was definitely very enjoyable in those spicy moments. And to wrap up my phenomenal month, I read Immortal Dark by Tiga Skirma. And when I tell you this book right here was phenomenal, if you were one of those girlies who watched The Vampire Diaries, or more specifically the originals, and absolutely loved them Klaus Michelson down, then you need to meet Susanyo Saged because he is the black version of Klaus. So good. I really enjoyed it. This gives us black vampires and dark academia. In the story, we follow Kidan, who is an orphaned heiress who grew up far from vampire society. When her little sister June disappears, Kidan must infiltrate the elusive Yuxley University in order to find the perpetrator. This was, again, a truly phenomenal book. I love the world, the characters, the academia, the vampires, literally everything. This book was a 5-star, and I cannot wait to sink my teeth into Eternal Ruin.